Welcome, mis amigos, to friendly Mexico. It's the last of fiestas, they're everywhere you go. Welcome back to the channel, as today we are going to explore the history of the Gran Fiesta tour starring the three Caballeros. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to our channel, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. So let's begin with the World Showcase at Epcot, which is home to 11 pavilions that are themed to represent a specific country and is described as being a permanent World's Fair. The pavilions are situated around the World Showcase Lagoon, which is also home of the nightly fireworks display Illuminations Reflections of Earth. When Epcot Center opened in 1982, the World Showcase was host to 9 pavilions. In 1984, the Morocco Pavilion was added, which sits in between France and Japan, and the Norway Pavilion was added in 1988 and sits in between Mexico and China. Today we are going to focus on the history of the Gran Fiesta tour starring the three Caballeros, which is an indoor dark ride where guests board 16 passenger boats to see the sights and sounds of the Mexican culture with some familiar characters. The exterior of the Mexico Pavilion is designed to represent a Mesoamerican pyramid. The structures differed from Egyptian-style pyramids as they were known for their flat tops, and the tops generally housed temples. An interesting side note about the Mexico Pavilion is that the exterior look and what we see today was not the original intention. The original pavilion was designed with the Mesoamerican pyramid at its front, but the show building attached behind it was much more visible and even was designed with Mesoamerican ornamentation. Eventually, Imagineers thought the show building, even with its matching scheme, detracted away from the pyramid. Also, pyramids true to their respective culture were not attached to buildings. Thus, the trees in front were allowed to grow and flourish. This helped hide the show building, and it left the pyramid as the main visible focus of the pavilion, as you can see the difference today. A little hidden secret at the top of the Mexico Pavilion is a small hidden office, which serves as the control room for Illuminations Reflections of Earth. When the park first opened, the ride inside the Mexico Pavilion was actually different than the current ride that we have today. At the time, the attraction was called El Rio Del Tiempo, translated to the River of Time. An early name for the ride that was being considered was the Three Cultures of Mexico, as the ride would reflect on Mexico's progression from Aztec culture to the Colonial Period and then to present day. Initially, the ride was also supposed to have both indoor and outdoor elements and was not intended to be part of the opening day attractions and was supposed to later open in a planned Phase 2. The initial plan was that there were going to be ride attractions in both Japan and Germany, but the development for those attractions were delayed. Due to this, the Mexico boat ride was pushed ahead so that there would be enough attractions on opening day. Because of the change and the new time constraints, the original ride had to be shortened by almost 40%, and the outdoor portion was completely nixed. Now let's look at El Rio del Tiempo. After you boarded your boat, you started to float down a quiet river where you passed by a Mayan temple and a volcano in the background. This portion of the ride consists of one of the most unique features, as you also pass guests dining at San Angel Inn to the right. Not only is this a unique feature for riders, but it's also a unique feature for the diners as well, who get to overlook the boats passing by with a beautiful ambient backdrop. This is reminiscent of the Blue Bayou restaurant located inside Disneyland, California, where the restaurant overlooks Pirates of the Caribbean and the riders passing by in boats. Now as you go forth, you would enter a tunnel of time taking you back to the era of pre-Columbian Mexico. As you exit the tunnel, you are welcomed by a Mayan priest to the city. The priest would appear from the use of the Pepper's Ghost effect. The most famous scene that uses the Pepper's Ghost effect is from Disney's very own Haunted Mansion, which is in the ballroom scene where ghosts seem to appear out of nowhere and then vanish. The remainder of this portion of the ride included 6 screens, where the riders would see costumed people depicting the 4 elements, the gods in a battle of good versus evil, Aztec warriors that represented the bear, jaguar, and eagle, and on the last screen, Moctezuma II spoke of a prophecy where Mexico would be defeated by Spain, but that the culture would live on through the color and music of the Mexican fiesta. The screens were rear projected film screens placed throughout physical sets, And this design and technology was borrowed from the If You Had Wings attraction located in Tomorrowland at the Magic Kingdom, which closed forever in 1998, after changing names and sponsorships over the years. As we would now enter the next portion of the ride, this represented the Colonial Period. This section used the same dolls from It's a Small World, where we would be entertained by them dancing and enjoying festivities during Dia de los Muertos. The dolls would not have the same appearance as those in It's a Small World, but were designed to look like papier-mâché sculptures, which was a traditional handcraft from Mexico. The ride's theme song would also begin in this section, and it was titled none other than El Rio del Tiempo. The song was written by none other than the famed Imagineer and lyricist Xavier Atencio, who also wrote many of the beloved songs from attractions that we all know today.
When the spirit moves that room, he can make that film go.
As we exit the Fiesta, we now head into the portion that represented the modern-day Mexico at the time. We would pass by 9 more screens that depicted activities that promoted tourism, such as water skiing, cliff diving, and scuba diving. Near the end, there would be 3 screens side by side, which would show us a market where merchants would speak to the riders attempting to sell them goods.
It's a colorful season, so beautiful! Reggae fantastico!
The finale of the ride brings us to a room where a large firework display was showcased overhead and a gazebo with large dancing marionettes. And as you approach the unloading dock, you would pass by a map of Mexico, and the voice of the Aztec priest would be heard bidding riders farewell.
May it go well for you, and let your hearts be gladdened with the sounds and music.
On January 2nd, 2007, El Rio del Tiempo would close permanently and be reopened as the Gran Fiesta tour starring the 3 Caballeros on April 6, 2007. Much of the ride remained intact. The main storyline and the videos shown on the screen made up most of the changes. The new storyline has the 3 Caballeros performing a concert in Mexico. Where we used to see the videos of Aztec culture after leaving the time tunnel, we now see clips of Panchito and Jose riding around on a magic carpet-like serape, searching for a lost Donald. On other screens, we also see Donald almost as a tourist wandering around Mexico. The videos are reminiscent of the film The 3 Caballeros, as it mixes both live action and animation. On one of the screens at the beginning of the ride, you will see a small surprise cameo appearance by another character from the film, in which we'll be discussing in a future video, but let's see if you can spot him now. The next portion of the ride has mostly remained untouched, but as we enter we now start to hear an instrumental version of the main theme song from the 3 Caballeros. Another little thing that was switched was the piñata, which now has turned into Donald Duck. These piñatas were also sold inside the Mexico Pavilion in the early 2000s, but are no longer available. As we float along, we see the same screens from the original ride, mostly depicting the same imagery, but with the animated characters added. As you pass by the scuba diving scene, you will also spot a familiar looking coat that is often overlooked even though it is in plain sight. The market screens were changed to a fiesta scene with a mariachi band and dancers. This is where Jose and Panchito finally meet up with Donald as they try to pull him away from the dancers. In the final room, the marionette carousel was removed, but the fireworks display on the ceiling is in full effect. The sounds of the fireworks were lowered as the full 3 Caballeros song is sung by the trio. When the ride was initially refurbished, the 3 Caballeros were shown on a video screen. In 2015, the ride was updated again and the video screen was replaced with 3 animatronics of the 3 Caballeros, which were updated versions taken directly from the Mickey Mouse Revue attraction that closed in Tokyo. If you are a hidden Mickey fan, you'll definitely find several on this ride, and we will point out a couple. The easiest one to spot is on the Viva Donald float. that has 3 drums in the shape of Mickey's head. Near the very end of the ride, if you look closely at the painted buildings on the wall, you will spot a full-bodied Mickey in one of the building's windows. Just like in the original ride, at the very end, you pass by a map of Mexico, but you are bid farewell by the 3 Caballeros instead of the Aztec priestess from the original.
Thanks for coming to Mexico, and come again soon! Be waiting for you, amigos!
As of now, there are rumors that the ride may undergo another change and be overlaid with a Coco theme due to the film's popularity. The speculation also stems from the Frozen overlay that Maelstrom received in the Norway Pavilion. Coco theming has taken over a lot of the Mexico Pavilion itself, but as of now there have been no statements issued by Disney on this matter. The new updated version of the ride has had both positive and negative reviews, as some feel the new version is better for younger children and more entertaining, while there are those that prefer the original version due to its historical depictions. But let us know which version you prefer, or if you would prefer a Coco-themed ride. Again, thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the history of the Gran Fiesta tour starring the 3 Caballeros. Please remember to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more videos like this.